Hello everybody, today I've got another really spicy deck for you, and this is the magical hack deck. It is also something that is sometimes called Karma Tomb. So we've got the Cyclopean Tomb and Karma, but that's not the only synergy that we've got in this deck, so let's talk about everything one after another, all of the cards. First of all, the mana base. We have got several planes, we've got several islands, and of course we want to get as much colored mana as we can, because we have got double blue, we've got double white cards that are quite essential and we want to have them early. So that's why we have got 4 tundras and 4 cities of brass, of course. And after that we've got the obligatory colorless lands, that is strip mine against our opponent's library or annoying Mishra, for example, and a library of our own. So library is here not only because it's just a good card, but also because this deck is quite controlish, and sometimes we can expect to be sitting with a lot of cards in our hand, and also we have got a lot of draw engines and also even draw 7, as you can see. So it's quite likely that we'll be able to use this card not only during the early game, but maybe also mid-game sometimes. Then we have got the Moxen of respective colors and Black Lotus, which is always nice. Also Soul Ring, which is not an auto-include for me, but here we definitely want to have that because the essential cards cost quite a lot of mana. And with Soul Ring we quite actually might be able to cast one of our important cards on turn 2 sometimes. Next we have got blue power, all pieces of blue power as far as you can see. So we've got the Ancestral, no comment about that. Time Walk, also very nice. And we have also got Time Twister. So Time Twister is not a card that I automatically include in my decks that have blue, but here it's actually quite important because I've tested it, and we want to get the combo as often as possible, so sometimes it can be quite devastating. And also we have got some control elements, so if Time Twister gives our opponent quite important advantages, then we hope to be able to get rid of them. Next we have got the counter package. There are 5 counter spells, that is of course 4 proper counter spells, and there is 1 mana drain, as you can see. And then we have got Brain Geyser. So Brain Geyser is a great card. Here, as I have said, we are trying to get to the combo as fast as possible. And with Brain Geyser, I think we'll be able to do that quite fast. And after that, we can talk about the defensive cards that we've got. So in white we have got some amazing removal, as you know. We've got 3 copies of Disenchant, because who knows what our opponent has got, maybe some really game-changing artifact or enchantment, or just some fast threats. And also of course there are Swords to Plowshares, 3 of them, and I haven't tested it much, it was quite a late inclusion, but Balance I think would fit here, because the essential cards that we have got are enchantments, so I think that this should work. Next we have got Copy Artifact, so there are 2 copies. 2 copies of Copy Artifact, alright, and I need them to be able to copy maybe something good that our opponent has got, or maybe Cyclopean Tomb, of which I unfortunately have got only 1 copy. So let's take a closer look at Cyclopean Tomb. This is a mono artifact, which, as you know, means that it can be activated using the tap symbol. So basically this is the tap symbol, and here it says turn any 1 non-swamp land into swamp during upkeep. So it can be a bit misleading, and what's very interesting is we will see during the Forge games, actually they took the text literally instead of using the errata for some reason, or just the oracle text, and you actually can use it during your opponent's upkeep, which is not the case in Modern Magic, of course, and I don't think that this is what they meant. So yes, again, during your upkeep you can activate that, and yeah, it's a little bit limiting. I would rather prefer this to be a sorcery, but you know, doesn't matter. what I'm trying to say is that this is a card that turns your opponent's lands into swamps, and it has got very flavorful and nice effect, saying that if it is removed from the game, so once it leaves the battlefield, as they say nowadays, you have to return those cards that have been turned into swamps, and you must return them into their original state. So that's really, really interesting how it works. So that is Cyclopean Tomb. Next, we have got Angry Mob. So again, the reason to have Cyclopean Tomb is to turn our opponent's land into swamps. So this is, plan A basically. And again, we try to get copy artifact just in case this one gets destroyed, or maybe just to accelerate the whole thing. There were some situations where I had 2 Cyclopean Tombs on the battlefield. Really feels nice. So yeah, Angry Mob. Where's the mob itself? Actually, if we zoom in, we will see that this is the mob, right? So they're carrying torches, and they are in this very narrow street, and it's really interesting. I don't know, some kind of an actor, some poet. I don't know, he reminds me, or maybe preacher, who knows? Actually, it would make sense if there were the preacher from the dark over here. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that Angry Mob is a really interesting card, and it has base power and toughness 2. And this is so during your opponent's turn, but during your turn, it also will add the power and toughness. It will add to that the number of swamps that opponents control. So essentially it means that if your opponent has got, let's say, 5 swamps, then it's going to be 7/7 trample, which is very important. I absolutely love trample. This is probably my favorite ability in terms of evasion. Maybe even I prefer it to flying, because, well, flying is of course great. It's an amazing ability. It's iconic, but trample just feels so good. It, I don't know, perfectly conveys this feeling of power that is difficult to stop, and yeah, it can lead to terrible things for your opponents. You just cannot trick anybody into, chump blocking and such, and yeah, awesome. So yeah, that's Angry Mob for you. Next, we have got Karma. So again, the original combo is Karma and Cyclopean Tomb. By the way, about Cyclopean Tomb, there is something interesting. I will later tell you about it. There is a very, very interesting piece of trivia about this card, also about some other cards that we will talk about. And in case you don't know about it, it has to do something with the name of it. So yeah, in case we're not playing against a mono black deck, which is actually quite unlikely, even though it can sometimes happen, we will turn our opponent's lands into swamps one by one, and then we will start dealing damage. So poor guy. I always found this card very, very gruesome, but that's the way it has to be. Even though it's a white card, it doesn't have to be so brutal. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that, and also, for some reason I thought that he's underwater, and these are, I don't know, some underwater tentacles. But yeah, if we look at him, we'll understand that no, these are actually some flies around him, and yeah, he's not underwater, right? But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that Karma and Cyclopean Tomb are, of course, a very nice synergy. But again, what if we cannot do that? There comes the magical hack. So now there are 2 cards with very similar effects. That is magical hack and sleight of hand. So sleight of hand, you can watch my video on Sleight Knight deck, which is probably one of the audience's favorites, because this is one of the top viewed videos on this channel when it comes to deck techs. But again, magical hack, what does it do? So you change the text of target spell or target permanent by replacing all occurrences of one basic land type with another. For example, you can change Swamp Walk to Plains Walk. But you can also change, for example, swamps into, let's say, islands, right? So if our opponent is playing a lot of blue and has a lot of islands, and of course you remember that dual lands also count as that, this would work. And you can also, of course, change Karma, for example, into mountains. And if our opponent has got mountains, you can imagine how powerful that would be, right? And finally, we have got this card. So this is a rather obscure card. Essentially, this is the twin card of Flash Fires or Tsunami, but well, I can actually say that it's the opposite of Tsunami because it destroys all forests for 3 colorless and 1 blue. So with Magical Hack we can say that it destroys some other basic land type. So there it is. That's it for the deck tech, and now let's take a look at this deck in action. On the desktop app, and it didn't run properly. Magical Hack was broken, so it, for example, worked on Angry Mob, but it didn't work on Karma. So Karma simply was hacked. In terms of the text did say that it was changed from islands to mountains, for example. I mean, from swamps to mountains, right? But in any case, it didn't work, so there was no effect. And it did work on Angry Mob, but not on Karma. So, these things happen. Sometimes they're very difficult to predict. The versions can be a little bit different. And fortunately, Forge actually has a landscape mode. So this is what you can do on the phone. And it still works, as you can see. So here there are no problems with hacking the Karma. So this is what we're going to try and play. So meanwhile, what have we got? We have got a Zoo deck against us, and Kurdape is smashing us pretty badly. But we do have the library, and there is the Ancestral. So should I counter Ancestral? I think I should. So in response, we'll draw of the library and then counter Ancestral, because 3 cards, you can be sure that there will be some pretty terrible threats there. And now let's draw of the library, but only after we have done that. Or maybe we should skip. Okay, like this. Okay, so here is Swords. We can deal with both threats, which is nice. And here is Mishra. Mishra gets disenchanted. And Kurdape gets sworded. Okay, so not that bad overall. Hope that we can start going off soon. But we gotta be careful. But on the other hand, what can our opponent do? It's just a Zoo deck. So it's not that there are a lot of powerful spells against us. Non-creature spells, that is. Okay, so Karma is already doing its thing, but we will of course hack it to forests, because we don't have any forests of our own. Remember that it is a symmetrical card. Oh, wait, I accidentally didn't draw the library. That's a shame. But maybe we can just start getting more aggressive, and let's hack the Karma. Here you really have to keep track of which copy you're targeting, because there is the time stamp system. So typically the card that you played first will be displayed first here in the list. Okay, so yeah, it's quite painful. That's quite painful. We are going to be very careful now. So probably not going to play any lands. And our opponent has got Mishra, which isn't nice at all. But again, we can deal. Oh, we can deal with all of this stuff. Okay. Okay. So, it's not Mishra for the win, of course. Alright then. Okay, and here are Pixies. Have no choice but counter the Pixies. But the problem is that now we don't have any counter spells. So we just hope that our opponent doesn't have removal. I mean, just any burn spells. And now it's going to be tremendous damage. 4 for the forests, 2 for the swamps, and 2 for the swamps again. So, did we win? Yes, it looks like we did win, because our opponent didn't cast any direct damage spells. And here it is. So, Karma in action. Did win. Let's play one more game. And I think it's a keepable hand, isn't it? I mean, ancestral, the lands in appropriate colors, even a little bit of removal. You cannot really ask for much more than that. So let's draw. Even though we're probably going to have too many cards, but that's fine. And with that, you know what we can technically do just to make sure that no cards are wasted? Well, let's say one card is wasted. We can copy the Mox, right? Why not? We will copy the Mox. Okay. So what are we going to discard now? I think City of Brass would be appropriate. Well, we don't have double white. That's a problem. Well, maybe the Disenchant. But okay, I think we can discard City of Brass. Because it's not that I'm going to try and use some threats soon. Now, here's an interesting dilemma of what we can do. And usually it is better to use Cyclopean Tomb as early as possible. So this is what I'm going to do. Also because it's going to nerf the curd apes. So remember, it can only be used during your upkeep. And by default here in Forge, you do not have those stop markers set up. So what you need to do is that you need to manually place the stop markers on some particular phases. Otherwise, he will just miss the upkeep phase and you won't be able to use it, for example, with your Cyclopean Tomb. By the way, I have to tell you that there is a rather interesting bug, right? So when we look here, it says activate during your upkeep. Remember, we talked about that. But here, the bug actually allows you to activate it during your opponent's upkeep as well. Of course, if you do that, that would be cheating, so definitely don't do that. But it's just one of the things that technically works here, even though it shouldn't. So, okay, Psyblast. Should we counter Psyblast? 4 would be... I think we can counter Psyblast. And we will also Swords one of the curd apes. So during the upkeep, what should we do? Well, normally we would go for Mishra, but on the other hand, we do have Disenchant for Mishra. And maybe we can try to get rid of our opponent's red sources, because red sources are quite dangerous. Well, yes, let's try to do that. And also we'll be able to cast Angry Mob. So there is a possibility that Angry Mob would be destroyed by a burn spell. And I wanted to say that it's even worse, but it's not really worse, because I don't really care too much about that. Okay, so upkeep, we definitely get rid of the forest here. And we, of course, disenchant control magic. So now we've got a pretty impressive 5/5 Angry Mob. And we've also got a counter spell. So I think the odds are pretty good. Our opponent doesn't attack, but tries to kill us with Fireball, which we will, of course, counter. Okay, so upkeep. Let's get rid of one of the Mishras, because it's just getting out of hand. And we've got a disenchant now. Still doesn't look that good, you know. Opponent simply has more creatures than we do. And we're very close, as you can see. Very close to destabilizing our opponent in terms of color. So there's still City of Brass, and the Zoo deck can pretty much cast everything. And it's even worse, there's Birds of Paradise. Maybe I should have played it in a different way. Maybe I should have concentrated on getting rid of our opponent's mana. And now what can we do? Well, we can of course copy the Cyclopean Tomb, but it's already doing a lot of things, so... Okay, let's think logically here. Can we actually start swinging? Because it's 8-8, and it's pretty fearsome, right? We only need 2 swings without blocking. On the other hand, our opponent will counterattack for 2. And what if there is forest from our opponent? I don't know. It's really problematic. Or technically swing for 2 and Side Blast, we're dead. But I don't know. It's really strange because here you have to figure out who is the bit down. Okay, I will attack. I think I will not block. Yes, and let's just... Oh no. Very dangerous, very dangerous. Is there a bolt? No. Okay, so we got lucky. We got lucky in the end. And I think we have just one, didn't we, right? Because we cast Karma. How many swamps does our opponent have? 3, 6. Okay, so 6 swamps. And since Angry Mob has Trample, I think it's a perfect demonstration. And, I mean, even without that, so what was he thinking? Okay, there's one of those things. Alright, so it was a pretty good demo, I guess. Maybe we can play against something else. Well, I can show you a deck that I'm hopeless against. And this is a 3-color skies deck. I did already test this Karma Tomb against it, and it usually doesn't work at all. Okay, so that's a good start. We've got a counter spell on turn 1. Counter spell ready. And maybe we can speed things up by playing this. Okay. And here's a Soul Ring. Okay, let it be. And, well, it's a pretty good start, but it still doesn't guarantee that we are going to have any kind of advantage, any kind of possibilities, really. Well, okay, let's just go straight for that. No. Here is the power sink. It is a control deck. It's really, really difficult to deal with. After all, it is a winning deck. It's not just a historic deck, but it is one of the top decks from recent events. Okay, well, counter Black Lotus, alright. Not what you would normally do. Now, our only hope is that our Angry Mob doesn't get sworded, and even though there is a possibility of that happening, we can still try Counterspell. Okay. So, now, let's think about it. What have we got? We've got 1 swamp, but 2 islands. So, I think this deck is more blue-heavy than anything else. But on the other hand, we can have more swamps. I don't know. We can have more plains. Maybe we don't even have to waste the... But no, wait. What am I talking about? On the other hand, we can actually crack Mishra. And Mishra is annoying per se. And also with Trample, we are not even going to lose to the blocker. Okay, yeah. So, I think that's fine. Let's just disenchant that. Okay. Ancestral, oh no. It's not good at all. Not good at all. Well, I think that with 3 islands we can actually hack it. From swamps to islands. And attack for 5, right? Yeah, not bad. What was that? Was it Mind Twist? Yeah. Okay. 5. So attacking us with Mishra, what do you expect? Same thing? I wonder what our opponent drew. Oh no. Okay, here's the swords. So, you know, it couldn't last long, really. And here's Sir Angel. That's the Skies deck for you. And we're just going to get stomped. Well, okay. Maybe with lines. This actually makes it feel worse. But we don't have Karma. Well, no, we don't. I made a pretty similar deck some time ago. Again, same 3 colors, of course. I went for some nice stuff such as Mahamotajin, I think even Air Elemental, and again it was just all skies deck. And there was also an Atlantic deck, so there was Hymn to Torak. So these things are pretty brutal when it happens. Okay, so let's draw 1 card using our Time Walk, and it's not going to save us, and you see, even though we had a tremendously good start, we still lost. And really, I did play test this deck against this Skies deck, and it was pretty hopeless, I could say. Okay, anyhow, oh look, what a good start for our opponent. We will get rid of, okay, later, so let him damage our opponent. When you look at it, it just feels like cheating. Look how many good things there are on the table. This is too good. Okay. Is there anything we can do? Now, what I really like to do very often is trying to attack, then our opponent will block, and then we'll be able to copy Mishra, but it's not always possible. That's the problem with Mishra, because Mishra cannot... Well, number 1, you don't cast Mishra, okay? So cannot be countered. And number 2 is that sorceries and enchantments cannot get to Mishra. It must be an instant. And it leaves you with very few options. I mean, it's a nice card. It's really iconic, but it's just ubiquitous and it's too good. It's just the difficulty of not being able to deal with this card. It's really non-interactive, what we can say about it. Okay, no, I don't want another Ifrit. The problem is that it's very difficult to get card advantage when you're playing against this deck. How are you going to get card advantage? Your opponent already has also blue power. Time Walk is fine, I guess. Again, just get 1 more damage from Karma. So, of course, when you're playing against an opponent, or real-life opponent, your opponent will usually know how to play around Karma. But again, here, playing the second Underground Sea, I think was called for, because you really need that particular mana. Because the Skies deck cannot do much with just 3 mana. Okay. So we're actually in a rather good position, you know. I think we actually won. We did. So I think we're going to play the last game now. Okay, perfect. Play the last game against the same deck. And again, yeah, so it's a little bit, I cannot say that it's really, whoa, okay, no, I didn't want you to see that happen, because the opponent just used Chaos Orb for the sake of using and destroying their own permanent. So when you see such stuff, it just discredits absolutely everything, and might as well be playing a solitaire against a non-existing opponent. It's just so bad. Okay. Well, but again, you've seen that AI is not that hopeless, usually. So yeah, what I was trying to say is that both of the decks that we played against did have black, but only a splash. So, it's fair to say that it's a pretty average deck. So, I just didn't pit this deck against a mono black, which would be not very representative, because there are not so many mono black decks. And essentially what I'm trying to say is that very often your chances will be much worse, and you will have to rely on magical hack. Still, swamps very often were not the prevalent cards that our opponent had, so I think it's, again, a pretty average situation that you're going to see. Again, a lot of blue. I mean, against competitive decks. This is the reason why I specifically tried to use those decks that we've got, those decks that we see now. And look, we even were able to color screw our opponent. And yeah, so completely locked of blue mana, so only has black and white mana. And we won. Okay, so that's it. Thank you for watching, and very unusual thing, but again, where there's a will, there's a way. So we were still able to showcase this deck, and remember, there is Forge if you want to use that, and it can even work in landscape mode, so we made it possible. Thank you for watching, and bye.